In 2020, fans feel like they have to pick a side, whether it's AEW or WWE. Fans are always engaged in some sort of Twitter war, back and forth, throwing a lot of insults at the other side. But this is so much bigger than just the fan response. So, how did we get here? We're going to talk a little bit about the truth behind AEW's success and why I think they're going to be a major player in the wrestling industry for years to come. We're going to talk about it right here, right now on Destination Pro Wrestling.
You have arrived at your destination.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ango. You guys can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Tango with Ango. And if you guys like this video, go ahead and slap that like button. 100 likes would put a smile on my face. And if you guys could click that subscribe button, ring the bell. This way, you're going to get notified on all the latest content right here on Destination PW. It's going to be highly recommended that you do so because we got a lot of stuff coming up for weeks to come. Now, originally, I wanted to make this video a couple weeks ago. And I kind of prevented myself from doing so because I really want to see how things were going to go for AEW. Now, over a year of AEW being in business, we're getting towards that year mark. A lot of people have been talking about AEW. It's been a very big part of the pro wrestling conversation. This channel specifically took off with great numbers and success and a lot of growth because of the AEW coverage before AEW was even a new company. And I think that provided a lot of insight to fans on who I am as a pro wrestling fan. And I think a lot of people got to really understand what I'm into as a wrestling fan in general. So AEW has been around for almost a year. And a lot of people, especially on Twitter, I think this conversation really stems from Twitter, which I'm going to get to in a second, but it doesn't mean everything. But there's this huge debate on Twitter, especially when it comes to the ratings, AEW versus NXT. And while I think a pro wrestling war is not exactly what we're facing here, we're seeing a lot of things similar to WCW versus WWE that we are currently experiencing in 2020 with AEW versus WWE NXT. We haven't even really touched the surface as far as a full-blown pro wrestling war. So let's just make that very clear. But the dialogue this entire time has been that you have to pick a side. Whether or not you pick WWE or AEW, it makes sense. There's a lot of people just as human beings, they've kind of become accustomed to rooting on their favorite sports team. And that's kind of what's happening here. And I think what's really, really important for people to know is that AEW is going to be successful in the long run. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about why. So if you guys like this kind of video, just let me know how you feel in the comment section down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'm very interested to see some of the responses. But AEW has quickly hotshotted themselves as the number 2 major promotion in the United States. And quite honestly, they could even argue that they may be the number 2 promotion in the world. So a lot of that comes down to one thing, and that is the relationship that they have with TNT. So what I find really interesting about Dynamite, it was only on TV for a few months until AEW Dynamite and AEW obviously had the press release, right? So there was a press release that went out. They extended their contract for several more years, and tons of money are at stake. And I follow a lot of the technology trends that I'm going to talk about in this video. So with like ratings and TV viewership and things like that, I think I could bring a pretty good input to this conversation. But AEW right off the get-go found a TV partner who brought the product to life. TNT, obviously being part of Warner Media, quickly jumped on the AEW train right off the bat. Had AEW signed a TV deal with WGN America or anybody else, I do not think AEW would be where they are right now at this point in time. And that is very crucial for AEW. And this is a big reason as to why they are so successful. The head honchos at Turner have a very close relationship with AEW. And I think one of the biggest things that we've seen when it comes to anybody trying to compete with WWE is that the TV deal has to be a very significant one. Impact Wrestling, aka TNA, had a very good TV deal with Spike. And then the relationship got rocky. Impact Wrestling kept moving their TV deals. And as every time they kept moving their TV deal, it got harder and harder to find Impact Wrestling or TNA. ROH doesn't have like a weekly live TV show like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or Dynamite. And so it's always been very confusing for Ring of Honor to catch on to fans in terms of a television product. Even though Sinclair is a very, very big asset, the ROH relationship with them hasn't really proven to help ROH, at least on the TV premise of things. Now, whether or not we're talking numbers about live shows and tickets sold and stuff like that, I don't want to get into that conversation because I think right now the big conversation should be centralized about TV. So let's talk about the truth behind AEW Success. It's all TNT. They quickly jumped on the train. They allow AEW to become a true alternative to WWE. It's a little bit edgier. It has a little bit of a different presentation to WWE. Things are ran differently than WWE from the backstage and creative standpoint. And AEW as a company have a vision for their product. And I think what's really made them successful is they shared their vision with Turner, and Turner Sports met them halfway to make this vision come to life. And this is why I think AEW right off the bat has seen some impressive numbers when it comes to ratings. If you think about it, they've pulled in 1 million viewers before. This week, they went head-to-head again with NXT and had over 900,000 viewers. They are winning most important demographics that are important to advertisers and obviously important to, all the important people. And if you look at AEW's product on another TV deal, I just don't think AEW would have caught on. On top of that, AEW has a roster. Some of these guys are from WWE, and some of these guys come from the indie background that fans online know and love. AEW does attract a more hardcore fan audience, and I'm going to talk about why this is important in just a minute, but they've attracted the hardcore audience first. There is going to come a point in time that they're going to maybe have to change their approach, like WWE has. WWE is often called the Disney of pro wrestling, and rightfully so. When you watch SmackDown, you almost feel like it's a Disney-produced show, and it's the A show. It's on Fox 2. It's a very, very big deal for WWE to cater to the younger audience. And I think AEW never has to do that. I think the numbers as they are right now are so impressive that I think Turner is getting their money's worth with the AEW product. Not to mention the possibility of AEW getting into the streaming realm at some point in the future. Tony Khan, Cody, they have never turned this down. There is a possibility we can see AEW go the streaming route. One thing that I find very interesting, in May 2020, AT&T, Warner Media, they are launching something called HBO Max. And I find that the inclusion of AEW on the Bleacher Report Live has been a very, very good asset to them, and they didn't have to spend money or resources to create a network for AEW, especially with the lack of content. I don't know if this will happen, but I could very well see AEW doing pay-per-views on the HBO Max service. And I think that would be a really, really good thing for AEW because not only does AT&T and Turner and Warner Media, not only do they all fit their content into one major hub, but if AEW ever wants to grow, $50 pay-per-views is a big concern for people. While I do think it is worth every penny, I think that was clear by watching Revolution, I think AEW is with a TV partner that understands how content is viewed, how content is distributed, and I think they also know a lot about what people are watching and what people are into. So while the big conversation on social media is ratings on a weekly basis, AEW, while they might have a little bit of focus on ratings, they've surpassed the expectation that was set for them. And because they've done that, they're able to actually worry about creating a good product and not the numbers. Eventually that may change, but AEW got off to such a hot start with their numbers, with their product, with their consistency. all these factions, all these things that we kind of see from New Japan, all these things that we see from WWE, they basically took the good out of both companies and put them all together in one big pile. And they took from those and they ran with it. And then you kind of see what they're doing with their women's division. And some fans are upset because the women's division hasn't taken off. But if AEW were to launch a successful women's division right off the bat, and it was better than every women's division out there, but they were lacking everywhere else, that would be a really big concern for fans. Again, AEW is not the perfect product, but we can't pretend that it's going to always be perfect. But the good thing about AEW is they have more positives than negatives. And because of that, because they have a TV partner who is actually interested and willing to put this product out there, the NBA on TNT ads that we see during halftime with AEW, these are things that tell us that AEW has somebody so invested in them that as long as they're focused on good content, the rest will naturally come through and come to fruition. And I think having a TV partner, maybe one that was smaller or one that wasn't as interested in wrestling, maybe a TV partner that didn't have experience with wrestling, maybe that would have been a bad home. At the end of the day, WWE is such a big company, and sometimes they are too big for their own good. I think AEW is at the perfect size where they don't have to worry about the bullshit that comes with it, and I think that is what's making them very, very good. Now, very, very, very good TV is not going to get you 3-4 million viewers in a shorter period of time. But if AEW just continues to work on their successful shows, which they have been, and they really take in the fan feedback, right? I mentioned this earlier in the video. It's a small niche. There's a hardcore audience. AEW is already able to capture them. And the voices of online fans and hardcore fans, the noise is loud. But as loud as they are, whether it's good or bad, people will eventually cling on to this. There's UFC, there's Bellator. Both of them coexist. There's Pepsi, there's Coca-Cola. They both coexist. There's WWE, there's AEW, and they're both going to be able to coexist. And I think it's also going to help AEW tremendously by having some former WWE guys as their world champion. The online fans hate it, but you got to start bringing in those casual fans, the ones who left pro wrestling 10, 15 years ago. AEW's strategy is very clear. Put on a good product, have a good relationship with your main partner, which in this case, TNT, and then continue to put up great content. And they listen to their fans. It's really not that hard to understand. If you simply just do those things, you're going to be successful. The extension to the AEW TV deal was such a big one in such a short period of time. It doesn't shock me that AEW is off to a great start. When AEW pulls in 2-3 million viewers, if it ever happens, that's a huge plus. But I don't think that's what was expected of them. Nobody expected it. And because there was a little bit lower expectations in that regard, they don't have to worry about that. The pressure is not there to deliver 2-3 million viewers. I know Cody once said in an interview in 5 years he wants to take it to Monday nights. Tony Khan says he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to compete with Monday Night Football. At the end of the day, Tony Khan gets it. You don't need to compete with Raw. You don't need to move nights. You need to make Wednesday night the new home for pro wrestling. I think it's a very, very smart move, but AEW has become a very successful brand in such a short period of time, and it's only going to get better. I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Let me know. It's your boy Ango at Tango with Ango on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.
You have arrived at your destination.